If trying harder saved marriages, yours would already be fixed and I wouldn't even have this channel. Most men in a marriage crisis aren't failing because they don't care enough. They're failing to fix the relationship because panic makes them do more of the very things pushing their wife further away. I want you to think back to when she was first starting to become noticeably distant and she stopped initiating intimacy with you. If you're in an even deeper hurtful state, she may have told you that she loves you, but isn't in love with you anymore. Whatever the trigger was, there was probably a moment where something changed inside of you. You may not have noticed it at that time acutely, but there is this shift that happens where the relationship stops being just a normal part of your life and it turns into your entire focus or mission. You wake up thinking about it. You go to sleep thinking about it. You drive to work thinking about it. You're sitting at work pretending to focus while thinking about it. You just become obsessed with trying to figure out what is going on in your relationship and how it has gotten to this point. You are wondering what she is thinking or feeling and what the hell you should do next to try and save the relationship. And before you know it, you're no longer focusing on anything else in your life or living your life at all. You are in straight up crisis management mode with the focus solely on your relationship. I remember being in this exact place myself. I spent over a decade recycling this feeling every few years in new relationships until the last straw where my ex-fiance broke my heart and called off her engagement. I couldn't turn my brain off. Every conversation and interaction I could get with her during that time period felt like life and death. I thought if I could understand what was happening or find that missing piece that was making her pull away, I could just turn everything around. So I know the feeling of almost helplessness because nothing you can think of seems to be working. What I didn't realize at the time was that I had stopped participating in my own life. I'd basically become a full-time relationship manager. Maybe you can relate to that. Maybe your mood depends entirely on how things seem between you and your wife on whatever specific day it is. If she's warm and talks to you, you feel great and hopeful and optimistic. But if she's being cold or shut down, your stomach drops and you feel crushed. You basically wind up with a season's pass to an emotional amusement park and are riding the roller coaster every single day. And here's the problem. The more dependent you become on the status of the relationship to determine how you feel, that directly correlates to the more pressure you unknowingly bring into the relationship. But before we get there, I want to talk about something that nobody seems to discuss, because this is really where everything starts going sideways. Most people think addictions look obvious. If you're an alcoholic, you're going to have slurred speech or erratic behavior is probably going to be more prevalent in your day-to-day life, even if you're really good at hiding it. But there's another addiction that shows up constantly during a marriage crisis, which most men do not think about in this way. That is the addiction to trying to do something. Think about what happens when you are anxious and uncomfortable. Your mind starts racing and you start imagining the worst case scenarios about where your marriage is headed. Naturally, you want relief, so what do? You take action. But the common action taken by most men is that you either send that text, or you try and get her to sit down for another conversation to really fix things, or you buy her flowers or a nice bracelet. So for a quick second, you may feel better because you feel like whatever action you did do, you're going to find temporary relief from it. It feels productive and like you're doing your part to try and get things to work in the relationship. Issue is, when you don't get the desired response from her, no matter what action you took, you get that anxiety right back a few hours later, and it's like you need another hit, another conversation or reassurance attempt to really try to find out where things stand with her. It's this feeling of, if 100% effort isn't working, I'm going to give 200%. It is this addiction to giving everything you have because you want to save it so bad, and it feels noble to pile on all this effort. Is this resonating? Like, do you see the pattern? Because that was my pattern, and I know I'm not alone in this. This is so common with all the men I coach. And when we do this, we all think that we're doing those productive things to save the relationship. But honestly, what we're actually doing is trying to manage our own fear. The problem is that every time you use the relationship to soothe your anxiety, you unknowingly make the relationship heavier. What feels productive to you in that need to accomplish something and move the relationship forward as quickly as possible into a better place is actually where all your real trouble begins. And I have empathy for this cycle because I was hamster wheeling in this loop for a decade. Basically, every guy ends up doing something like this in your situation. That doesn't make you a bad husband, but good intentions do not always create good results. All of the extra intentions of asking if she is okay, if she wants to talk, or if things can improve together all sound good on the surface. When you start aggregating them together in repeated instances of conversations, each one gets more and more pressure filled, and it becomes telling to her that you really don't understand the reason for her emotional disconnection. It is very counterintuitive to think that somebody showing genuine care about wanting to make things right and fix the relationship with the woman they love will make things even worse and send it towards the end for good. But that is the truth you have to really digest if you want to save your marriage. And if you want to really know why the relationship becomes too heavy when you take that approach, you have to remove yourself for a second and focus on her side of things. If every conversation has this underlying emotional hidden agenda of you trying to fix the marriage without showing signs of understanding how her emotions work, it really doesn't feel like a relationship to her anymore. It almost becomes this game of cat and mouse where you are trying to get reassurance or prove something to her and she's too emotionally exhausted to play along. So she starts dodging it by checking out. The more responsibility you start putting on her emotionally, whether you intend to do that or not, it causes the attraction to continue to fade away. Maybe intimacy still happens occasionally, but it's going to feel completely different, like she's trying to just get through it rather than genuinely wanting to be there. Attraction really struggles to hold when she starts feeling responsible for carrying your emotional world, when the reality is you are supposed to be the leader and provide that safety for her. So it becomes this counterintuitive struggle because you are consumed by trying to fix things, and the quality of your day is pretty much determined by how she treats you or if she gives you any reassurance. But when you do that, it makes you take all of those actions that are based in fear of losing her, and it creates that emotional dependence on her, which pushes her further away, which is exactly why the phrase, "what you fear you attract," is a very true statement. Simply put, attraction tends to struggle when one person starts feeling responsible for keeping the other person emotionally okay. That means your marriage is no longer a partnership. It just becomes emotional caretaking. The cruel part is that most of the things you're doing are things a loving husband would do. That's what makes this so hard to see. The problem is the fear has taken over the steering wheel. It doesn't mean you should immediately stop trying. That's not what I'm saying. The problem with the effort you're channeling all your energy into is the direction of the effort. That's the distinction. I believe the fastest and most effective way, and really the only true way to save your marriage or relationship, is through becoming the masculine leader that the relationship needs to reignite the connection. I have felt the results in my own life in all areas when I dedicated myself to make that transformation, and I see it in my clients and their relationship when they did the same thing. Yes, saving your marriage or relationship requires effort, a lot of effort. It requires discipline, consistency, patience, humility, growth, self-awareness, and emotional maturity. If you're putting all your effort into trying to get her to see or believe you will change, to kind of get her to reconsider and come back, that is where all the trying harder is going to be for naught. So where should all that trying harder go if that old direction doesn't work? What does real effort actually look like? It looks a lot less dramatic and way more impactful than most people think. It isn't all in ridiculous hatch plans to kind of woo her back with romance like the movies show you it is. Real effort looks like learning how to regulate yourself when you are anxious. Real effort looks like resisting the urge to constantly seek reassurance. Real effort looks like building a life that doesn't revolve around monitoring the relationship status. And real effort looks like learning how to hold boundaries that build up her respect for you again. It may sound scary to do because the initial thought is that you have to do whatever it takes to change her mind, so taking any focus away from her is going to let her slip away. But I promise you, this is the only true way that works to get her to see the real change, and it gives you the self-respect that is naturally going to make her curious about you again. And even more importantly, it's going to completely take you from a state of hopelessness to a man who's actually in control of his own life. So if your marriage is struggling right now, the answer isn't that you don't care enough or you haven't tried hard enough. Like I said at the top, clearly if all the trying worked, your marriage would already be saved. If you really want to do what actually works to save your marriage, start putting effort into becoming the man she will want to reconnect with again. And if you want to learn the key areas that will time collapse your ability to save your marriage, go and watch my free masterclass now that's linked in the pinned comment and description below. I lived over a decade of heartbreak and pain, and I realized I had to be doing things the wrong way, and I was. So everything I learned that works has been put into my relationship rebuild program, where I teach men now so they can turn everything around. So check that out in the masterclass today if you want a proven path to save your relationship and change your life. And if you're interested in learning more about why it feels like she isn't trying with you, check out this video right here on saving your marriage when you're the only one trying.